All right, greetings. Welcome to night 2 of my Thanksgiving streamathon. So this is going to be part 2 of my trip to Hancock Tower, with a lot of the parts not actually including a lot of Hancock Tower. It's on the way out. I stopped off at WB, and I got a lot of good photos of WB interlocking in West Brunswick. We did the sort of the north side of it in part 1. We're going to be doing the south side and the western side of it today. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff isn't working right now. Our picture archives is still down, and I just the one photo that I needed happened to still be hosted there, and I don't have a local copy. That site's been down for a couple of days now. This is sort of odd, but I'll try to hit it up best I can using the employee timetable. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I'll try to oops, not in the Cumberland subdivision, it's the Met. For those of you who missed part 1, up through the late 1990s, CSX had a lot of staff towers on its B&O main line. There were both of them between Pittsburgh and the East Coast. There were 2 big batches, one of them between West Brunswick, Maryland, and Hancock, the other big batch between Cumberland, Maryland, and Connellsville. Starting in the early 2000s, both of these started to see tower closures, with the only ones remaining being WB in West Brunswick, Hancock in Hancock, West Virginia, and VI Tower in Connellsville, Pennsylvania. So this day I went out to check out both the open towers. I was informed, so Hancock was in the process of being closed, and I was informed that the operator there on Saturdays was a young kid that was just picking up that they didn't want to. There was a low seniority guy because the job was closing, and if you went and knocked on the door, he'd let you in. So for a visit. So that was what we were on our way out to see. And this was we stopped off at WB Tower on the way out, or not necessarily to see anything at the tower, but just to check out the interlocking. You can see the diagram isn't quite right. There's 2 sections, one covering tracks 1 and 3, the other one, the south section, covering tracks 2 and 4. The main track split to sandwich the West Brunswick yard, but also the commuter rail parking lot. Brunswick is also the mark yard for the Brunswick line. Although it does extend to Martin's, some trains do go to West Virginia or Frederick. Ultimately, Brunswick is where they have a pretty good, one of their larger yard facilities. Zooming in here, hopefully this is still done up. Just give you a quick overview. So here's the limits of it's been re-signaled, but here are the limits of the old interlocking. As you can see, there's a bunch on track 1 and 3 and a bunch on track 2 and 4. The 2 through main tracks are 1 and 2. 3 and 4 are sort of sidings that run between the whole length of the Brunswick Yard complex, which is pretty extensive, as you can see it. It was one of those sort of coal receiving yards with a lot of space. Today, this is the bit that's left. And so the Mark storage facility is right there. The CSX yard is sort of down the way. Here's the commuter rail lot, and it's also parking for the access to the C&O Canal Trail. So it's quite busy even on weekends. And downtown Brunswick is doing pretty well these days too. So now that we're oriented, we're going to be, the first day we sort of covered this area right here. Today we're going to be covering the southern part right here. And for the record, this is where Brunswick Tower used to be, and it's been moved. Unfortunately, it's been preserved. It managed to not catch fire, and is hopefully will be open or in some way going forward. So here we have what I'll call south tracks, south platforms for commuter rail, covering tracks 2 and 4. I'm never quite sure how. I've never been there in the morning to see what trains come out of what. So I'm guessing the Martinsburg trains will probably be on the outer track, but there might be something that they might have something here that platforms on this inner track. Fortunately, I do have a comprehensive blog post covering this. Where is that? Covering the whole tower situation. So I can, if you can check it out on my blog and you can read all about it. I go into more detail than I am here, but I'm going to be using that as a little bit of a reference because I make reference to the signal numbers. So here we have the track 4. So a B&O uses an even-odd system. Track 2 and 4 going eastbound, track 1 and 3 for westbound. And again, those 3 and 4 tracks are kind of like controlled sidings that only exist in the Brunswick Yard area. So this is the 8L signal for track number 4. With and there's always this sort of ready yard of coal trains at the far end of Brunswick Yard. You can see them right down there. There's always a couple of coal trains with engines. I'm guessing, I don't know if they're empties or whatever they are, but they're just always sort of sitting there. They might have come out of, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know one way or the other. So this is the 8L. I think this is 8L. What did I just say? 6LA and 4 on the 8L. Yeah, this is the 8L dwarf. There's a lot of odd extra signals that got left behind in this interlocking. It was definitely rationalized when they re-signaled it. Need to sort of get back up to speed here a little bit. So today we're going to be covering the remainder of WB and then also hit, I have a couple of photos from Harpers Ferry as well. This is the 6LA signal. Implies that there was an additional pair, this was paired with something. Eastbound trains are governed by on track 2 by the 6LA and 8L on the 4. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any good history of what WB, the whole interlocking might or may or may not have looked like back in the day. I bet that would explain a lot. Although, in theory, I have a book. I have the book that covers this. It's just not with me here. Maybe I should look through that. It's one of those like trying for the PRR, but the guy did one for the B&O first, so it doesn't quite have the signaling diagrams that I'd like. There we go. These are typical Mark B&O area platforms with low-level ones with concrete tie edging and asphalt pavement. Definitely what was acceptable up through in the immediate pre-88 era when Mark kind of got itself going. Here's a nice thing just showing how the 6LA's got a little bit of a tilt going on there. A little bit of backlighting here. Sorry. I have photos of those CSX ones later. So I'm not skipping talking about those. The engines back there. Here we have the 8L. Just a closer look here. I said the quality of the track in and around the station area was not great. I guess CSX isn't going to go to great length, but it was just sort of definitely beat up a bit. And here we have. So remember, I mentioned in the last video, I mentioned how the 28 R signal that was installed new to replace an older CPL mast that was decaying. And I said that although the GRS hardware would stay the same, what I call the cup part of it on the orbitals there, the central terminal block would change dramatically. This is one of the earlier ones where it's instead of being there's a small square GRS one that was from like the 70s. There's sort of more nondescript ones that are third party that started anything that was replaced in the 80s and 90s. This is the older style GRS terminal block that it looks like sort of like a T or a scallop shell, sort of a stylized scallop shell there. For those of you who forget, the components of a B&O CPL signal. This is the circle I call the target. It's usually surrounded what I call the basket, which allows full ability to full access to the signals, and then it's surrounded by up to 6 orbitals. Here we have normally you do it facing. This would be a 12 o'clock orbital and a 10 o'clock orbital. So this signal can display the full range of regular full speed signals plus an approach medium for diverging movements at East Brunswick interlocking. Diverging routes on this side are going into non-signal track, so at best it might get a slow approach and probably is going to get a restricting. I usually don't take a lot of non-railroad photos, but I thought this was cute. Someone penciling in hammer time on the stop sign. Surprised you don't see this more often, actually. Oh, it is sort of a dated reference. And also, though, this was from 2007. And then here we have the 6LA is a very tall signal. They're not usually this tall. Oh, I mean, I wouldn't be commenting if they were usually this tall. But it's a good 5-10 feet taller than you would expect a CPL mast to be. I'm guessing it might have been elevated to show above some of the station shelters, but I'm not entirely sure. As I said yesterday, because signals and stuff can have two different, you can. This is an east. This is a. You can have two different rear or front angles. The ones that are not in the engineer on the track side point of view, I say, would be the opposite angle. So this would be the rear opposite angle. When describing my my 360 degree, labeling concept. As I've mentioned before, I've been a little bit. As we get into the future here, especially into 2008 and beyond, I definitely go harder into just sort of way bland, like these presentations become unsustainable because 90% of the pictures are simply getting 360-degree shots of every part of the signal. If you ever seen the photo galleries I post. So part of my inefficiency in my earlier era is plays to the benefit of you folks, because it's less signal junk and more what is it? More interest, more trains and that stuff like that. And we have sort of a more head-on view of the 8L signal. With the grade crossing. This crossing is for allows access to the campsites and other stuff for the C&O Canal Trail. The 8L dwarf signal here allows for your slow clear, slow approach indications for the crossovers. So that means, technically it would be slow approach, slow. So a train let's say a marked train would cross over at slow speed, and then it would. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong here. There are two signals on track 4. You pass this one, then you don't hit any switches, and then you pass another. So this is sort of it's not a phantom signal, but it's a vestigial signal. It's a signal that protects no switches. And in theory, you could say it might have been hooked into the grade crossing equipment. Whereas when the signal was cleared, that would be tied into the grade crossing, so a train waiting wouldn't activate the grade crossing. I'm not entirely sure about that. I can only speculate of why they would have kept it in, but it's probably one of those things where they just didn't want to change the signaling for it. Although it might have had a use with the grade crossing there. But the next signal would also, there would be another signal right beyond this. So the slow approach would actually make sense. So here we have the remains of the pole line. This pole line is actually does appear to be transmitting block state. There was a pair of intermediate signals between here and the next interlocking to the west, which is named as Weaverton. They are ABS. So while the tracks are both Rule 261, the block signals are signaled single direction. So there's one westbound on track 1 and eastbound on track 2. This being track 2. So that relay hut there might be transmitting stuff down to the signal, or at least to this other location. But I'm not sure. The tower is adjacent to this, so the pole line doesn't loop around to hit the tower. So this is the number 3 crossover, and the other crossover is number 1. I'm trying to figure out what CP valve I'm looking at there. So you can see all the air valves, like the one there, and then there's going to be one adjacent to this. And for the record, normally I would go all over the place and take all sorts of crazy pictures, but at this time, remember, there's a lot of people around. There's workers in the yard. The tower is manned. And this was, still in that 9/11 hangover period. So I'm definitely worried about attracting attention. So this has got to be the 3W CP valves, 3 West. Oops. One second. Now that 6LA, that is the switch, that is the signal that protects the that is the signal that protects the switch. So track 2 only has one signal, whereas the other one has that 8 and then the 2. I'll show that in a little bit. All right, that's good enough. And then here we have the lineup of power here, including everything behind it. I'm not sure what I can really do here. So here are the 4 road switchers that were on hand. I already had pictures of these before. Yeah, this is good enough. So for those who were here yesterday, GP40-2 6151, GP38-2 number 2641, another GP38 number 2299, and then another GP40 number 6456 or something. Yeah, 6456. Probably go look at what I had for some of these. Oops. Huh. Strange. It's like I clipped all the other engines off and just had this one. Oh, here they are. And then here we have, this is the other this is the second signal that you encounter on track number 4. So remember that you get that 8L leaving the platform, and then you get this guy at the actual interlocking on track 4, not track 2. This signal, which is the something here, which is going to be the 2L, protecting the crossovers, and where is that? This is going to be able to give you that medium clear with the 6 o'clock orbital, or a medium approach medium if you're diverging in East Brunswick using the 8 o'clock orbital. And then there's that, I'm guessing would be the 3E, CP valve there. Yeah, it's definitely a different one right there. I don't know which. That could just be a vestigial one. I don't know. Let me take another look. One, two, three. Yeah, it's tough to tell. Sorry, I'm just looking for something here. I can look at a video. So, ignore the... So I'm just trying to track down how many CP valves there are so I can label them properly if there's a vestigial one. So I'm just watching a quick video clip here that I took from a passing Amtrak Capital Limited. So here's the platform. There's the 6 and the 8R signals. There, right there. See, this is where I need that dam. So right there. There. That's where it is. So there was something here. And that's what that 8L was protecting. There's a removed switch that would have been right in there. And I'm betting that was some sort of... There was some sort of switch that would head out and cross this way, maybe? Or just be an extra yard lead, like there? Because there we can see the first crossover, and there's the other power crossover. That's non-interlocked. This is all non-signal track at this point. So it could have just been something that would come out there and run along right into it there. Yeah, I can sort of see where the track would be. So there's a phantom's valve there. So that's not the 3W. It's something. I'm gonna try it. If I had that diagram with me, I'd be able to dig it out. So anyway, this is the 2L signal. In fact, I might need to go and update my blog post with what I'm sort of noticing here. I'm gonna go check, see what I have in the chat, if I can get this going. One second. Maybe whoever's in the what's his name? Perhaps Brian in the chat can, if anybody has any questions, can just sort of forward them to me, if there are any. If they're not, don't worry about it. Oh, I got some stuff here. Oh, hey Hooper, thanks for joining in. Did you? I guess I guess you found it. I didn't make an announcement at today's NRHS meeting. Thanks for joining in. Hope you're interested. I'll be doing these all this. I'm here all week. And if it's your first time, yeah, the aesthetics, the aesthetics of this is it's a little clunky. I do have a computer, so I'm at my parents', my mom's old house on a backup computer. I do have a new backup computer that's ready to come in here. That'll hopefully be a little bit less sus, but that's still going to take me to set it all up, and hopefully I'm going to do that over the Christmas break. So here we have WB Tower, the rear of it. Nice wide shot too. As I said before, up through the mid 90s, it was in the typical late stage CSX tower paint job of gray and with blue trim. Then around the year 2000, I actually remember when I saw the news article around the late 90s to around 2000, it got this bright red siding, which probably did help a lot from its deterioration, and also it got a really nice windows, nice drop sash ones. Which is again very uncommon for towers this way, for towers to of this vintage to get. I forget if I ever came back and got a second set of photos before it closed. I was trying to get out there, and I think I just missed it. Then here we have the number 3 switch or crossover. So as I mentioned before, the pole line would probably be delivering block state between here and East Brunswick, and possibly block state to those distant signals that were to the west. For the record, it was mentioned that East Brunswick did have local control over East Brunswick Interlocking, Harpers Ferry, and Weaverton, and then those were slowly whittled away until it was closed. I think at some point it no longer controlled them. I think it was by this point. The operator, I am sure that the tower survived as long as it did. Due to Mark paying for it, or a substantial portion of it. Here's I do have this photo of the interlocking machine in use. Unfortunately, the photo that has the track diagram I don't have access to right now to show you to pull the stuff off of. It's a very old interlocking. It has the bell cranks, but don't just call this a USNS Model 14. This way predates it. It's a USNS like electro-pneumatic model, the EPs. Looks similar, but the functionality is slightly different. Not how the user uses it, but like the technology inside. Just quirks, just little in sort of ways. What was I going to show? Oh, I was going to check the data on this whole interlocking plant. Blah, 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 blah. 1910. Oh, yeah, and here's a picture of WB before it got its current red siding. You see, TSX did a pretty nice job with the gray and blue trim. But by the time Hancock would have been in that paint scheme until it still kind of was, but it was quite faded by the time I got to it. Ironically, that was actually very similar to Conrail's late stage tower paint scheme yeah, that was a gray. It was also a gray and blue, but I think it was a slightly different shade of blue. Where is that? That's not it. There it is. So here we have the 3 west switch. Now, often it's they typically go these days. If you're naming a pair of switches for a crossover, you'll go with A and B. But when a USNS Model 14 was in use, you could use east and west. The reason they use A and B is because a lot of today's signals, even on both USNS and GRS installations, have E and W or north and south prefixes. So you don't really want to have confusion with a switch having an E or a W or a north or a south on it, because then people might think it's a signal. However, in the towers where the signals had an L or an R prefix suffix instead of the EW or north-south, then the switches would get a directional labeling to them. I don't know if this is the case here. I'm going to go with that just because it's what, I don't actually know one way or the other, and they're not labeled. Remember, I'm getting what pictures I can get. This is the 3W switch with the A5 switch machine and a CP valve in the distance. For those of you who weren't here, hold on. If I've never done an air plant before, there's the air piston. This is the detecting and the actual mechanics that throw the switch based on it converts a 90-degree, converting the back and forth travel into in and out. And this thing will have the valve components that makes the switch, not just randomly throw under a train. That's where all the effort had to really go into to make this safe and reliable at the turn of the 19th to 20th centuries. And then here we have the 3E and 1W signals, plus that pole line sort of going off in the distance there. My camera at this point only had a 10x zoom, so I really couldn't just ultra zoom into things. It was better than my first camera that only had a 3x. But today I can just reach out and touch anything. I can just sit back and zoom all the way in from publicly accessible areas. While my second gen digital camera was better, did not quite have the reach that I can get today. All right, there we go. And then we have one more picture. Oh, you should have saved the description now. Your typical thing. For those of you who don't know how switch stuff works, these all have names, but this is basically sort of reinforcement. This guy with the spring, that's your throw bar, and this here is your detector. You need the detector right at the points, is because that if those points are not in alignment, that's where you're going to get a derailment. So right here at the very, very end is your actual point detection bar. I think that there's 2 bars. One of these will work the circuit controller. That's your point detection, because that has to have the most fine adjustment. And then here is your throw bar, and that's going to have slop in it. You can see how there's a spring on either side of that. That's because this is able to move slightly before the points actually throw. And this is just your gauging bar. That's just extra reinforcement here at the points. So, although it doesn't, again, I wasn't running all over the tracks. I'm pretty sure I would have gotten whistled for that one. The way I label points, especially when I'm able to do full 360s around them, although that is way less the case now that there's almost no pneumatic interlockings left for me to explore. What I do is I just, I say, okay, this is going to be, the name of the switch. So we have, WB Tower, it's the 3 West. And then I describe it in order of the things that they appear from closest to farthest. So this would be the points, and then you have your A5 point machine. If the CP valve is in the distance, it would be the CP valve, then that would be added on. And that also includes heaters, propane tanks, blowers, all sorts of stuff. So if I'm at an angle, I can say eastbound and then points plus the switch machine. But if I'm on that other angle, I can say, eastbound switch machine plus the points. Because that's the order in which they appear from me. And again, the reason is this, so I can have unique file names and not be stumbling over myself when I'm doing this. Now, if I'm just showing a picture of the point machine and I've cut out the points, I will use a descriptor if it's the inside of the point machine or if it's the outside of the point machine, if the points aren't visible. Here we have a zoom view of WB Tower plus the air plant or the generator hut. I should probably just call that the air plant. It's not the generator hut. Now I got to go and find that other picture, that other photo, and rename it. There it is. Again, for those of you who weren't here today, when you have a pneumatic interlocking, you need a source of the compressed air. Often it's in the basement of the tower. WB Tower, although it does have a basement, I've been in that thing that doesn't have a lot in there. There's not a lot of room. That whole ground floor has relays. I'm betting at one point the basement did have a compressor, but at some point they moved it outside. Now, the reason I know this is the air hut, if you go to the opposite side of it, there's the big old air reservoirs. If you're an operator on one of these old electro-pneumatic towers, I'm going to adjust this real briefly here. You have 2 low air alarms. So the reason you had pneumatic point machines is just the major reason is that it's twofold. Well, I won't say it's twofold because GRS did electric and good for them. You just didn't have a good source. Electricity was a lot more expensive and rarer and harder to get sourced to locations. And at the time, the motors were, it took a lot of, if you're the reason you don't have electric switches is that motor technology isn't great. If your not great motor is pumping the compressed air, you might run a little bit low. So the air plants would have a compressor and then reservoirs. So you can have a lot of switch movements in a short period of time, and not run out of power. Although you do have, if the compressor died, you would have enough to sort of get things going. You had 2 low air alarms. The first low air alarm is, in most operating manuals for the towers, will say if you hit low air alarm number 1, that's when you need to immediately set switches to normal positions. It doesn't have to be normal, but they tell you how you need to do it. Sometimes it's just straight rail. Sometimes you do certain used routes. Low air alarm number 2 is where you don't move any switches at all anymore, mainly because they'll get stuck on center and then they're not good for anybody. So here I have a zoom view of the 1 crossover right there. Now it's odd because I saw on these switches they have electric. I clearly saw an electric point heater, so I'm betting that air tank might just be vestigial itself. At this point I walked around, oh sorry. Now what's going on here? Oh, I did go back to the tower. Or did I? I did go back. Wait. Nope, I didn't go back. I just have some stuff that's sort of weirdly out of place here. I'm sort of running all over the interlocking, so I'm doing things in a weird order. So I think I took some pictures, then I ran back across the parking lot, then I ran back across the parking lot to get some additional photos. So I was a little surprised here of what was up. So this is the 19 switch. This is all the way back over on track 1. This is where the yard lead joins in with siding track number 3. So where we've gone from is here. And by the way, to get those, so I sort of walked up into this area. So I walked off the lot down into this sort of gravel zone, and I was taking pictures there. So now I've come back, and I'm all the way over here with the 19 switch. I'm pretty sure this is the 19 switch, but I should double check that to the best of my ability, since I'm limited on what I can get going here. Sorry, I'm just checking here. I'm trying to get whatever that I'm trying to get the number of that crossover switch. Oh, those 2 yard tracks are 5 and 6, so that's interesting. So the air valves are in the parking lot themselves. Okay, 21 is the crossover, 19 is the yard lead. So this is the 19 switch for the yard lead. And again, you can see the piston, and each end has an air line going to the CP valve unit, and that has electronics coming, direct wire cables coming from the interlocking machine, and the resulting switch logic, relay logic in the tower. And here we have the 19 switch. Again, the USNS style CP pneumatic valve. If you ever wanted to examine, I think that some of these might actually still be in the lot. I bet they took them all down, but I'm not. There are still some of these sort of floating around West Brunswick. And I went back after they closed the tower. I did. Those ones that are on the far side, they left those in place. I'm wondering if this is one of the 21 switches. And this is the 19. This is plainly labeled. So I wonder if I can get So you can sort of see where these would have been, where the parking lot doesn't let you park. So there was one there. There's one there for 19, And I bet that's the, I don't know, maybe that was the 21 one. Let's see. Yeah, I only have a 2024 thing here. So that's the old 21 switch. Yeah, it looks like the lot was repainted. Because that's where the 19 switch would have been right there. And then there's the 21. So that gate was the thing that says "Do not cross tracks." This is where the 19. But yeah, they've repainted everything. So forget about trying to use Street View to figure out where all that is. And Street View here doesn't go far enough, going back far enough to yeah, like it's like just 2023. Oh, they got a train viewing platform at Brunswick. Look at that, with a picnic table and everything. That's adorable. Good for them. I need to go back. I mean, I go here pretty regularly. So, there's a microbrew in town you can stop at if you like that. So here we have the which signal is this? This is going to be the 24R signal. Yesterday you saw a bunch of stuff with the 24L. Wait, is this 24R? No, this should be 24L. Looks like I found another mistake going on there. Yeah, that's the 24L signal. I got to make a note to fix that. And that's the 19 switch. So same thing with track 1. You had you would have multiple routes, multiple signals protecting various routes. So you'd pass a signal, go over the 21 switch, pass another signal, take the 19 switch, pass a third signal, and finally you're getting into the yard lead. I'd show you on the diagram. But so here's that, just so what that looked like. There's a signal there, go over the 21. 24R signal, then you're here, and there's another signal, I think that's the 16L, and then you can go into the yard. So you're going to go to make this one movement, you're going to pass three CPL dwarfs. Again, a lot of that was done back in the day to make interlocking, to reduce the number of relays, especially if you're going to non-signal track. You don't have to check any track status besides just the switch. Relays were very expensive, compared to other things, to mechanical stuff. Relays were incredibly expensive in the early part of the 20th century. 24L. And just another quick picture of the 24L dwarf signal. All it gets is stop and restricting. Okie doke. That's second round. I'll check stuff in just a second here. Yeah, I was right. It is E and W. So you see, yeah, see 21E. And here's your 21W. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for a couple more things here. So a process of elimination, that mystery CP valve job, I think is 21W. What? Oh. That's what I think. I kind of remember the time. I think that's where he parked. We have any questions here? Yeah, the emergency air pumping hose was called an engine tap. Most PRR interlockings used to have them, and they were marked on the diagram. I've only ever encountered one in real life at CP Home in Pittsburgh. They've been mostly relegated to the the Netherwegians. The way that it tended to work is that as time went on, the compressors got smaller and they got put in cabinets, and most of these interlockings of any significance would end up with two, so they would have an amount of redundancy built in. Wouldn't protect against power loss per se, but that's someone else's problem. So here we have the 21 switch, 21 East switch CP, and then the A5 is behind it. I mentioned this yesterday, that one advantage, the Brunswick yard was very prone to flooding, and the pneumatic system was more robust, was more resilient to flood damage than the electric switch point machines tend to be. One thing, I think I saw this before Hurricane Sandy, although I'm sure it's done other places, especially when you have GRS Model 5 type point machines, is that the railroads can go and pull off the electric motor on the end of them. NJT did that to every electric motor in Hoboken, in the Hoboken terminal area before Sandy came in, and it's probably a good thing that they did. But I saw like a whole bucket just full of these switch machines, because on the GRS ones they just come right off. Here we have the 21 East switch A5 switch machine. In my travels, I have managed to find in the woods not one but two of these covers for an A5 from Winslow Junction. So now I've got two of them sitting down in my backyard. Got to figure out something to do with them. And here we have the 21W point machine. If you're at Harris Tower, these do work very well with how the Model 14. They're very well integrated into the Model 14 in terms of how that works. Although it also works with an electric, but the responsiveness is just second to none. As you move the Model 14 lever, it'll immediately throw the switch. And you can, in fact, oscillate the switches with the lever. You can move the lever back and forth, and the switch will just go clunk, a chunk, and it'll flap around. And that's a method you can use to try to clear ice or snow. Remember I said, what's that tank, that propane tank doing here? When the point heaters are electric, this is the remains of the propane point heater. So it looks like they were propane and they're with Conrail like this. This is a direct. They have a burner bar, and it's covered with a shroud to keep the heat in. So there's the metal shrouds. Conrail liked that metal shroud system. You also used to see the dock interlocking on Amtrak until dock was redone in around 2017. And they, of course, now go with electric. It doesn't get really cold enough to it doesn't really get cold enough to really need the heavy duty things in most parts of the eastern seaboard. And finally, we have the eastbound signals on track 1 and 3. Track 3 again being an unsignaled siding between here and Weaverton. Track 1 being the main track. I have, I'm not sure how well you guys are going to see this. I do have this really wonderful photo from my Capital Limited. Oops, got to go backwards. Capital Limited trip out the side window, where I got this. I knew that the tower was hitting its final days. So I got this nice picture of the reverse direction dwarf signal here. That is the 14L and 26L. 26L being the one on the siding. Hold on here. 14L is the one that's showing clear. 26L opposite it. So that's a cool picture there with the signal, the dwarf showing a full clear, and then the 26L opposite that. And then here we have another small picture of the 26. Like I said, the 26L trains going from track 2 into the yard tracks 5 or 6 would then get three signal indications: 26L, 24L, and then 16L. This is also another one of those dwarfs that don't have that bottom junction block and just have the head. That's a very uncommon way of mounting these. And it's also only restricted speed. And here we have the 14L. For those of you who don't remember, B&O CPLs do not have separate dwarf indications. A dwarf CPL can display the same signals as a high CPL, which is one of its better features of the system. Like the 6 LA on track number 1. This can display straight, clear, straight approach, and approach medium for East Brunswick interlocking. Routes across the crossover routes across the crossover, although they could give you a restricting because of those additional signals, specifically the 24L, you could get a slow approach to that restricted speed signal. I don't know what they did. They could do that, but not necessarily. That is a popular way to keep trains going a little bit faster. You give an approach slow to a slow approach right into a restricting. Keeps trains going a little bit. They don't have to approach that first signal prepared to stop. Keeps them going a little bit faster. Just tidying up some of these file names real quick. All right, there we go. And both of them together with the 21W switch behind. If you remember, there was a slow order on track 1, and you can just see again all the rails are quite a bit spliced together here. Also, those joints are not today's modern glue joints. They're the older sort of plasticky splice bar there. One second. So I think that I mistook this for a second air plant for the interlocking. It might be, but I actually think this is yard air for those trains. Now, yard air, although it has a lot of the same... see, I don't know. This could be a second air plant. Or at least it's a reservoir. I think I labeled it as that. But it said yard air is where you would have to help trains depart a yard more quickly. Instead of having the train's own compressor pump up a train, you can hook it up to yard air, and that'll help either doubling the time, because it can take, on a cold day, it can take the better part of an hour just to pump a train's airline up, because each car has its own reservoir that needs to be filled. Well, you know what we can do? The reason I think that this is yard air and not the air plant is I think it's still there. Oh, they have a new they have a new air plant. So today you can see there are the new signals. There's the new interlocking stuff. It's elevated because it floods here a lot. And then that's where those trains would have been. And it looks like they've actually put in a whole new air plant here. So it is yard air. And what you would see is, you can't really see it under the pavement. I'm guessing that they probably put somehow this goes somewhere. But in 2007, you know, I guess they used the original. They didn't have to repave the thing when they put in a new air plant. It could also have been both. You never quite know. CSX did a better job of hiding its airlines for the switches than the PRR did. The PRR would have them in those little. You knew exactly where those were. They'd run them on the thing, but this one was always a mystery to me. I never knew. You could never tell where the airlines were. They would just sort of vanish out of the ground. So there's no way to really tell if this was part of the the air plan or not. It could have absolutely been both yard air and for the air plant. Anyway, I'm just going to power through this. Now, I think I've just hit another one of these situations. Well, I'm not entirely sure. So, here we have of the stuff that's sit here on the coal trains. We have one of their typical CSX AC 4400s. This is really the bulk of their fleet. Even today, they're getting rebuilt. Number 78. They basically ran. I mean, if I pull up my my CSX roster here, where is that? Here it is. So for the longest time, you had your first like 500 units were all AC 4400s. They're getting rebuilt. Then they got some ES 4400s after that for the next 200 units. And what I think this is once again I have run into an AC 6000 I wasn't aware of. Longtime viewers of these streams know that I'm constantly finding that that in this time period I was just constantly encountering AC 6000s, and I just never noticed it. Yeah, because they bought 100 of them, and then they all like sucked. So, yeah, this is an AC 6000 there, and I was completely unaware that I had even seen them, because they all as a kid. Or a younger kid, I would always see these things. I'm like, that's a GE unit. I don't give a crap about that. And it turns out I was just seeing these AC 6000 6 ways from Sundays, and I just didn't notice it. One way you can tell besides the giant radiators in the back. Is that they had the two-tone CSX things, blue, yellow surrounded by blue. Yep, just verifying that I got all my things done here. And let me see if anybody has any questions. Nope. Yep, so if you're playing the drinking game, take a drink whenever I've discovered an AC 6000 that I was previously unaware of. What I don't get is when I was doing, by this point I was doing, I was doing, posting these things, and I was pretty sure that I was looking up what these were. You know, honestly, I could go back in my rail adventure. I mean, these I know are in my rail adventure. I don't everything before 2006. I have in my active, you know, what I'll call my active duty rail adventure blog, and good there. Okay, and I know that I can just go. You know, what did I say about this? Or you can go look. Well, I can go look real quick. I don't want to take too much time. I really don't want to take too much time here. Come on, pull up the stuff. Oh, great. It's loading a billion YouTube videos. December, this has been August. What? Wow, I actually never posted this at the time. Maybe so sometimes when I get into towers, I'll have a cooling off period, but I don't know why I wouldn't have just posted the stuff on Brunswick Yard. This is very strange that I would not have done a blog post on these photos when I took them. Now I did do a photo, a whole thing on Hancock Tower, but that wouldn't have necessarily, you know, gone after the stuff as much. Sorry, done the mundane pictures. Sorry, I wanted to adjust the crop on that. All right. So here we have whichever one this is. That's the problem. I don't know which one this is because I never necessarily labeled it properly. Oh, dang it. Oh, by the way, you can see more of the old heater crap there. So which one was this? Well, there's heater crap in front of it, so I can go zoom in real fast. So I've now, okay, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. I was over here. I walked this way. I got pictures of that stuff. I walked over here. I got pictures of the train, you know, I got pictures of the engines over there. Now I'm walking back, and I'm down back in there. I think my friend was getting pissed off at me just walking around for this entire time. Now I need to go to the pictures I currently, the previous photos I had, try to figure out which valve this is. Could be that one, but I don't think so. It's this one. It's right there. It's the 3E valve, because I can see the dumped heater shrouds in front of it. So always part of the fun of this is, especially with photos that are old, is you're doing a little bit of, you know, the sort of the sleuthing to get things properly labeled. So it's the 3E switch. All right, that was pretty easy. And here we have the 3 switch looking in the opposite direction. There's the parking lot. There's the station building over there. Actually, I bet my friend drove me down there to get this picture. I don't think I walked. I bet he drove me. I was there with the yard air, and he drove me around back here to get that first picture, and then he drove me down there, and I went into the woods. All right, just finishing up here. And finally, so here, this is an interesting bit. Here we have the the 4R reverse direction on track 2. Yeah, so that's the 2R signal coming out of the sort of the yard. And I'm going to get a picture on that. But if you're wondering where the eastbound, so the westbound track 2 main signal is, it's all the way down and around the curve. It's all the way down there. If I have the original outlines, yeah, it was all the way down there. So that's where the track 4 signal is. And that's where the old track 2. So you had all this group. There had to have been stuff in the original layout, but that thing is just all the way down there. That's the 4. The 2R is on the inside track. 2R rear. And there's the new interface, the signal huts all the way down there. Here we have the 3W. I was trying to get a better picture of the 3W switch. Should have just jumped up and tried to get a picture of it, because I was literally about to jump in a car and leave. And finally, we have the the 2R. So this allows trains to come out of the yard and proceed westbound. Maybe a MARC train does this. I'm not sure. The interesting bit is that this signal, so there's a common trope here. This signal only provides for a slow approach and a restricting. Probably just limitations of the logic. Track 2 was originally Rule 251. And sorry, not slow approach. Looks like medium approach. So that's probably just based on they didn't want to bring in block state from Weaverton Interlocking at some point. So they were able to just do something and just give you a medium approach, and you can approach Weaverton prepared to stop for all they care. So that's 64. What? 6486. Oh, I thought that was 6456. I'll fix that on some of my other things in a second. So we have the 2R and the 3W. $64.86. All right, finally we've run out of WB Tower. We're on the last couple of photos here. So by the way, remember, like I said, there are distance signals to it. Here's the one on track number 1 heading toward Weaverton, eastbound only. Here's the older one heading towards West Brunswick. Sorry, the one was westbound only. This is eastbound only, and then there's that siding track there. And then this is what they would use to transmit the block state. I believe that the pole line was still active here. So it looks like the tower closed in 2011. December, if I recall, it was December of 2011. We just have a couple more photos. We're almost done here. So here we have Amtrak 96 and 184 at Harpers. Harpers is a really nice... I remember when this bridge caught fire not too long ago. I've also done a lot of hikes up on that those highlands there. I think it's called Maryland Highlands, although parking is a pain. Oh boy, is parking a big pain in that. Like there's like very few spots. It's generally inaccessible, and a lot of people come in to walk their dogs there. So you are really fighting to get those spots. It is, in theory, it might be easier to come in from the Harpers side, but Harpers Ferry has issues with parking, and a lot of time you got to use like a shuttle bus from a remote lot. It really turns off, my inclination to go there and use the to hike the Maryland Highlands. A lot of people coming from DC. The Harpers Ferry is the junction between the B&O main line and the Shenandoah branch. Shenandoah branch, as you can see, really doesn't get a lot of traffic. Very little traffic. Oh, sorry. I should just go ahead. It's a nice, but if you ever want to do a fun bike trip, you park at Pointer Rocks, you bike to West Brunswick, then you continue on to Harpers, maybe get lunch at Harpers, and then go back. The bridge here used to do double duty, so there used to be a bunch of bridges. The truss one that mainly carries the Shenandoah branch, or secondary track, whatever you want to call it, that used to be the bridge. The point here was the main line, and it would sort of curve in and go there. Eventually, in the 1930s, they realigned it, rebuilt the tunnel, and rebuilt the either reversed which direction the station served, or just put a new station in. Trying to figure out what to to call this. I go back up to the old Q Cumberland subdivision here. Capital. Here we go. Shenandoah sub, which I hope is in this. Yeah, there it is. SHENANDOAH. Oops, already did that. Oops. Okay, whatever. I did resize it. Okay. ENANDOAH. I don't know the date of this first truss, but probably early 20th century. The other girder bridge is like 1930s. In fact, the date on the tunnel is the actual date they put the bridge in. The caged structure there is a walkway that has the what do you call that thing? The Appalachian Trail. I don't think that this little spur is used for much, if anything. God, it's so dim in this. Oh, it looks like they removed it. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, it was just a little like storage track. And it looks like they sort of swooped in and removed it at some point. The 1893 alignment. So there you go. I guess this is the 1893 bridge. Looks about right. All right, we're almost done here. I just have a couple of overtime photos that I wanted to do. Wait. What's going on? Oh. Those locomotives are still there. I was like, wait, I already thought he got that picture. Okay, hold on. So I have one. I might have to do a little bit of overtime here. I can get this. Oh man, that's a bad photo. I wanted to get through all of these, so hopefully you'll indulge me if I can try to get this done real quick. I might also skip some, but we'll see. All right, I was wondering why my first picture of these seemed a little like poorly composed, but it looks like I took two photos. So here, so you can see how busy the Potomac gets in the summer. This is August. Lots of paddlers, all sorts of stuff. What bridge is that all the way down there? I think that's like the route. US 340. Yeah, there's only one bridge to cross there. It's the US 340 bridge, or you can walk across on the Appalachian Trail. But there's not a lot of good access to this area. Here we have the Shenandoah Subdivision Bridge plus the Maryland Highlands. For those you don't know, blah blah blah. Harpers Ferry was the site of John Brown's raid. Key weapons. It was one of the only like two federal arsenals. I think the B&O Railroad was running through here at this point, and I have been up on those cliffs. I don't know if it was this point when I did it, or no, we wouldn't have taken the time to do it today. But I've been up there a bunch of times. We've taken friends and all sorts of people up there. I'm gonna have to figure out like what I've used. I feel like I should have naming conventions for these, but I just haven't used them recently. In theory, I could pull up my photos here. But this is not the right photo ones. Thank you, Google search. You are absolutely useless in helping here. Is this doing stupid crap like content search? I want file name search. Yeah. I didn't think so. I gotta go to my other photo account. I have the wrong one open. That's why I had two of these open the other day. Oh, crud. Alright, I'll deal with this later, but... So here we have the remains of the old truss bridge. Again, I think this is the first like B&O bridge here. It's spelled out and where is this? 1869 Bowman Truss Railroad Bridge. Blah 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 blah. Confederate blew up the bridge. Construction of the bridge in 1886. Rail traffic shifted to the new replacement bridge in 1894. Paved as a highway bridge. Badly damaged in 1924 and swept away later. Okay. Good. I get to classify this as a B&O relic in my naming scheme. So B&O. Here we have a little, what should be a pier, but looks like a little island. Note again all the paddlers. I'd love to do tubing in this area. I've never really done that in the Potomac. I've done things like rafting and tubing and canoeing up in the upper Delaware, the Lehigh, but never down here. A bunch of my friends do paddling and stuff. I should probably get in on one of those at one point. Here we have an unfortunately blurry photo. It would have been a great photo if it wasn't blurry. Looks like an AC 4400 number 509 heading out of the tunnel. This is also in one of those. It's interesting how much I couldn't stand the old CSX paint schemes, but I actually liked Bright Dark Future when it came out, but I've just sort of gotten sick of it. Honestly, I don't mind NS. I mean, yeah, it's just black, but black just, I mean, it's sort of neutral. The Dark Future scheme just sort of, I don't know, grates on me to some degree. Let me check what I'm using for this. Stuff here. Come on. I'm just looking for what I called, how I named Harpers Ferry stuff back in the day. Alright, there it is. Harper's Equal Ferry. Oh, man. I actually remember in 2003... I was going to school in the area. I didn't have a car, but I actually remembered trying to get something set up to get out to Harpers Ferry when I heard that the CPLs were gone. This was a popular photo location, again, back in the day. Okay, that works. Of course, I get, like, you know, the pictures of the, you know, once the trains. I bet the issue was that I was surprised by the train emerging. Hey, wow, is that a Frisco? Nice. There's a awesome Frisco hopper car there. I don't see the number on it. I gotta get the reporting mark. SLSF. And here we have the tunnel portal. I'm pretty sure that this one didn't get notched. It's very tall, so I hope it didn't get the Chessy cat's ears that some of the other tunnels on the line got. And the last thing, I see some additional piers there. Shenandoah River Highway Bridge, also destroyed in the flood of 1936. Anyway, thank you for staying for the little bit of overtime today. We will be doing 2 more parts. Tomorrow we will hopefully start Hancock Tower, and then we'll finish it on Wednesday. I think that went to 117. Yeah, we'll be starting tomorrow at Shepherdstown Junction, and then continuing on to Hancock Tower. And we have how many photos left to do? 110, so 55 for each of the next 2 days. A little bit of a lift, but I think we can get there. Let's see if anybody has any. We have any additional questions here? Midwinter trip is going to be on the 30th. If you saw the chapter announcement, there was an incorrect itinerary. I'm going to work on the new one now that SEPTA has its funding lined up. So it will be the Monday, December 30th. It will include the Route 15 and probably Chestnut Hill, but I just need to work that out or whatever's going on. You never know when the Chestnut Hill West might get axed. So we haven't been there in quite a while. I want to get there for lunch. All right, if anybody else... If I don't see any questions, thank you so much for attending. And like I said, I will be back the next couple of days. So I hope to see you then. And stay safe tonight. All right? All right, I'll see you.